you are arguing for the slaughter of human beings because you're pro-choice. And I'm standing here in
strong word.
Where a fetus cannot.
You said killing a fetus, so it's not a strong word.
It's really not. But could I just finish my statement?
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. I have had unprotected sex.
Not me. Never.
So I see we all been getting it on. About that.
Wait, are these people all like 16?
The first time that I had sex, I didn't have the knowledge that I should have. I think, I didn't know what Plan B was until I started having sex. That just maybe I missed that day in class, but that was not taught in sex ed. So I didn't know what Plan B was until I started having sex. But now I'm a lot more educated, a lot more comfortable. I'm on birth control. But obviously, birth control isn't always effective, isn't always accessible. So I understand my privilege in that.
Well, the first time that I had unprotected sex was a couple months ago with my fiance. We're both adults and we were in a real period of grief because I had just had a miscarriage, I think about a month before, after we'd had protected sex.
The first time that I had unprotected sex was unprotected sex was with the person that I am currently married to.
How old are these people?
Straight out of high school.
What the
I was
fuck?
18. It was a week after I graduated. And we're really happy together, and we love the idea of having a child. Currently pregnant right now.
Heck yeah!
That's, so clearly I had unprotected sex to get here.
Are you going to college, or do you have a job? How's that working?
Imagine she gets
So I
debated into
mainly do
aborting her baby
activism.
right
I
here.
try to advocate for people who are in the same position as the person inside of me right now. And I think that the value of their life is intrinsic to every fetus. So honestly, right now, I'm just chilling as an activist.
Jesus. That's your
But do
full-time
you make
job?
money?
Yeah,
Sometimes,
Drew,
if I-
good question. Who is that girl?
Followers give me some. Depends. When you were having unprotected sex, would you say that you would have been financially stable enough to have a child?
No.
No. Would you say you would have been emotionally ready enough to have a child?
No.
Okay. All right then.
I think I was in kind of a similar situation to you. Not so much because I was pressured by a partner or anything like that, but because the sex ed courses that we had, like yours was lacking, were very lacking in terms of queer sexual education. And the sex I was having, I thought I didn't need any kind of protection for it because I was sleeping with people who couldn't get me pregnant.
The first time I've
What?
ever had unprotected sex, I was young enough to not know what sex even was. So I was very much manipulated and groomed by someone in my life to think that what I was doing was okay and normal. And that scared me because, when I finally told my parents,
I feel like we need details. I'm sorry. I know it's traumatic, but if you're going to be on these panels, it can't be well, when I was having sex, I didn't even know what sex was, and I was groomed. It's okay, what happened? Were you raped by a family member, or was it an older school person or a teacher? We need, otherwise, what do we? It's so vague. I don't even know what the fuck we're talking about right now.
it wasn't a really good conversation where they were of course they were shocked because that person is in our family, and they were like, that isn't real, you're just trying to get it for attention kind of thing. And then, but in a sense I knew that they believed me because we went to some dingy ass Walmart and bought a pregnancy test because they were like, if you are pregnant, you can't tell anyone that it's his. You have to say that we adopted another child and you would have to keep that baby. I did not want to have a baby at a very young age. I was not emotionally ready. I was not financially ready. I was still in school trying to think I have a future for myself that I want to do, Fortunately, I was not pregnant.
Do you think that people can't achieve bright futures when they have children?
They can achieve bright futures if they have a child. I just knew that I wouldn't have been able to achieve that future.
Well, there are like resources available, particularly for people who are student parents, for people who are on-campus parents, who have children, babies,
my
toddlers, children of all ages. There are also resources in terms of crisis pregnancy centers, also known as pregnancy help centers. There's thousands of them across the U.S. There's 5 crisis pregnancy centers for every Planned Parenthood. And so I think that a lot of these resources are not made known. I think that a lot of people kind of get into the situation of being pregnant and nobody's telling them about these resources, and then they think that they can't do it. And then they get an abortion that they might not have actually wanted. They felt like they had to.
Do you feel like that was your situation? Do you feel like you didn't want to have an abortion, like if it happened?
I think that because I grew up in a very conservative home, so abortion wasn't even in the picture. I wasn't even allowed to have that idea. And like thinking of it now, like, yeah, there are crisis centers, but we're also going through like baby formula shortage. Like, there's not even paid parental leave. So if we're going to be able to bring a child into this world, I think we should fight for more health care that is free for women or people who can give birth. And especially since I was at a very young age, I honestly just didn't know what I would do in that situation.
For me, when I started engaging in intercourse, I started out using protection. I've been volunteering with Planned Parenthood since I was about 15.
Ooh,
When
the
I was
enemy
in high
activists.
school, I've had an intense passion for reproductive rights, so I immediately, as soon as I knew that that resource was accessible to me, I put myself on birth control. But unfortunately, birth control isn't the end-all be-all, and from putting myself on several forms of birth control, I realized that the adverse effects of birth control can be very, very altering. And currently, I'm in a very long-term committed relationship with my boyfriend. And of course, when you have someone attractive, you want to have sex with them. And he's the first person I've really started participating in unprotected sex with.
Oh God, what does that mean?
I've not had sex yet, and that's just because of my religious ethical code and moral code.
Sure thing. I'm sorry.
I've
I'm done.
been,
I'm sorry.
I'm a Catholic. I've been raised in a Christian household, and I just don't see that as something that's beneficial or valuable to my life at this point. There's been times when I've questioned if I was ready and questioned my faith, but I've always just kind of found my way back to the church and agreeing with the church's teachings.
He doesn't have time to have sex, guys. He's got to be the one that manages
I
the
never really
island.
had
Okay.
a desire, and I was in foster care as a child, and so I witnessed a lot of sexual violence there.
I'm just kidding.
And,
That's the only one. I'm
it's
sorry.
just been one of those things I almost feel like just subconsciously I've never really wanted. So I really don't see myself like living in a sexual relationship with another at this time of my life, just because it.
Wait, people are saying she. Wait, is it she or he? I thought it was he.
Just isn't really what I feel like is right for me.
Sort of in the same boat. I'm Catholic as well, but I'm not. I haven't had sex before. It's not just because I'm Catholic. It's like there are other reasons.
You know what a good fucking skit would be? Oh, fuck, I have so many good ideas, okay? Is somebody, I don't know how you would make this funny or whatever, but like, if you misgender somebody, but they're cis, you don't actually care that much, right? Like, let's say you see somebody's like, oh, is that a boy or girl, he or she? And it's like, oh, it's a he. Oh shit, I couldn't tell, sorry. But if it's like, it's a he, and they're trans,
Shout out
now
to Cinnamon
you've like
Chat. Happy
fucked
birthday,
up
baby.
like a million times more. Like if you're not sure because they're a little bit androgynous or a little ambiguous, like, oh, is he or she, you don't know. But then as soon as like, but they're trans, they're like, oh shit.
reasons as to why it happens, such as pair bonding, and I think just
Pair
it
bonding.
helps to keep the marital act within marriage because newsflash, sex makes babies. So I think it's just good for a child to have a mother and father because when families are sort of separated, it causes a lot of problems for children, especially like with divorce. Now it's like surveys have shown that divorce is often worse.
Bro ran out of breath from walking from the back of the room.
Because it's just like, at least you know, like when the parents pass, it's like they didn't leave you behind. So
I have 2 questions for you.
Uh-oh.
The first one is, where did you get those surveys from?
I don't remember. I was just in passing, but
That's
I don't
fine.
really know.
Oh, wait, what was the survey? Hold on.
Now it's like surveys have shown that divorce is often worse than the death of a parent, just because it's just like, at least you know, like when the parent has passed, it's like they didn't leave you behind. So
Divorce is worse than the death of a parent. What is worse, divorce or death of parent? I'm trying to think of what would be worse. I feel like parental death, it's got to be highly contingent on age. That would be my feeling. Like, if your parents die when you're in your 20s, that's got to be really hard. And before that, it's like 30s. I'm in my 30s. I mean, like, it'll be sad, I guess. I'm heartless. Sorry. 40s and 50s is probably pretty bad because it's your parent dying. That's always sad, but it's also somewhat expected. It would depend on the manner of death too. Like parents like having heart problems for a year and then they die is one thing, versus like your parents die in a car accident would also be another thing. Divorce. I feel like I would believe this guy. I feel like divorce would be worse. Actually, that's what my guess is going to be. Divorce or death of parent. Painstakingly assessing their data, the authors of a new study see an unmistakable pattern emerging. Parental separation has stronger and wider effects on mental illness than death. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I totally misinterpreted this question. I thought it was what's worse for you, getting divorced from your significant other or having a parent die. But this is saying what's worse for the children is having a parent separate or having a parent die. I'm sorry, I totally misunderstood what he was saying. Parental separation has worse effects on your mental health than death? I feel like that could be the case, but it's got to be because there's so many other things playing into parental separation. Like a lot of separated families probably have a lot of unhealthy dynamics. That would be my guess, maybe. By the psychological effects of parental death with those of parental separation, the researchers parsed data collected between 93 and 98 from 2,605 male twins from their junior population-based twin registry, looking for statistical linkages between parental loss, any loss, death, and separation during childhood, subsequent lifetime risk for 7 common psychiatric and substance use disorders. Assess their data. The authors of the new study see an unmistakable pattern emerging. Parental separation has stronger and wider effects on mental illness than death. Specifically, researchers conclude that parental separation significantly predicted risk for all disorders except phobias. Odds ratios range between 1.45 and 2.03. Looking closer at their data, researchers conclude that parental separation had the strongest impact on risk for depression and drug abuse/dependence. By contrast, parental death was marginally significantly
voices are knocking.
Only risk of phobia and alcohol dependence.
Let them in. The voices are knocking. Let them in.
I also
The
feel
voices are
like
knocking.
I also feel like that's also true. I'm relying on heavy anecdote here because I've only known a few people like this. I'm relying on heavy anecdote here. I feel like if people, I don't know if I've ever met somebody that's carried trauma from an early parent dying. I don't know if maybe as humans we process death easier, but like I feel like I've met people who are like, oh yeah, my dad died when I was a teen. I was like, oof, damn. And like, no, it's okay. Like I'm like, but I guess they could also have underlying trauma that they are hiding, or they're not like obviously gonna, throw it out. Whereas I've heard a lot more people complain about like if your parents split, there's like fuck shit happening. Yeah, there's probably so many confounding variables and everything here. Like if a divorce burns over like 3 or 4 years, that would probably be really bad. The effect, yeah, this is what I'm thinking. The effect of parental death persists a relatively short time and has weaker impact on adult psychopathology than that of parental separation. This conclusion, they acknowledge, is in accordance with previous studies that have found no or weak association between parental death and psychiatric disorders. The authors of this study indeed interpret the findings of 2014. So basically, if you're going to get divorced and you really care about your children, you shouldn't get divorced. You should kill your spouse.
I have 2 questions for you. The first one is, where did you get those surveys from?
I don't remember. I was just in passing, but
That's
I don't
fine.
really know.
The second thing I wanted to ask,
I wonder if he quoted this correctly.
Circ rated, it causes a lot of newsflash. Sex makes babies, so I think it's just good for a child to have a mother and father, because when families are sort of separated, it causes a lot of problems for children, especially like with divorce. Now it's like surveys have shown that divorce is often worse than the death of a parent, just because it's just like, at least you know, like when the parents pass, it's like they didn't leave you behind. So
I have 2 questions.
So he even understated his case. So it's not just simple surveys that have shown; it's been actual peer-reviewed research has shown. So he's very correct on that.
For you. The first one is, where did you get those surveys from?
I don't remember. I was just in passing, but
That's
I don't
fine.
really know.
The second thing I wanted to ask, you said something about sex always making babies. Well, you didn't say always. You said sex makes babies, and I would love to challenge that a little bit, because
It's not the only reason for like sex. Is just like you have the pair bonding and sort of the emotional going on between the two people, but sort of like the telos, the primary purpose of it, sort of is for that. But there's other legitimate sort of secondary reasons.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So you would say that the primary purpose of all sex is babies?
Because I wouldn't say like all sex, because there's times where you can't conceive because like the woman cycles, so she's not always fertile.
These guys are like seasoned debaters. She's like setting him up for traps. He's like caveating as she's doing it. Wait, why these? Is there like some professional debate school in fucking California that they run kids through or some shit? What the fuck?
But I think just the natural order of that act is for having children.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think what they were getting at is to not assume that all sex is heterosexual.
Oh, kill me! Oh, kill me! Oh, now we're back in California. Ah, excuse me? Did you just assume heteronormativity in regards to sexual intercourse? You disgusting white, cis, oppressive, colonialist, white male.
Yeah, that is a pretty heteronormative view. I completely validate and respect that you don't want to have sex for you. But for those of us who can't even...
Bro, when we're talking pro-life or pro-choice, nobody cares about the homos, okay? Nobody gives a fuck about a dude getting fucked in the ass or 2 lesbians scissoring in a fucking pro-choice, pro-life conversation. Why would you think this is fucking relevant? Why would you even bring this up right now?
and ever, for any reason, get pregnant during sex, I think it's a little reductive to assume that that's like the reason people would do it.
Wait, what am I
I think
even in
there's
here
also
for?
a difference between reproductive sex and non-reproductive
Yeah.
sex.
Yeah.
Like, let's be so for real. There's so many things you can do to not get pregnant and still have sex with somebody.
I'm obviously not Catholic, but I think that but I think it's also important to remember that, you know, Catholics and people who do believe that sex should be within marriage also acknowledge that there's types of sex, like oral sex, for example, that you don't conceive children by. So I think maybe, not to put words in your mouth, but maybe what Luke is referring to specifically is coitus and not other types of sex.
Yeah, because people can mean different things by sex. It's like,
It's a very general term.
yeah.
Hi, this is Ragini, the director of this episode. Please like this video if you enjoy watching it.
What
and subscribe
up,
to our channel.
Ragini?
Now, let's get back to the video. I have had an abortion.
Oh!
I had mine about a year and a half ago. And I've never felt shame, never felt regret. I've never even second guessed my choice. Surprisingly, my parents are Middle Eastern immigrants and they were very supportive. The 9 months of pregnancy isn't considered to be a challenge in its own. It's like, oh, you know, you can give the child up for adoption. Oh, there are like resources, there are crisis pregnancy centers, but those 9 months, that's still morning sickness. That's still doctor visits. I had to go to the ER in the very short time that it took me finding out that I was pregnant to getting the actual abortion because I thought I had an ectopic pregnancy because that's what my gynecologist told me. There's so many things to consider. I can't go to school if I'm sick, if I'm already, you know, mental health isn't something that's secure for me. And then on the top of that, I'm gonna have to deal with thinking about this pregnancy. Are people gonna judge me for being a teen mom?
Okay, so I had an abortion fairly recently. I
Jesus.
had one.
What's the one show where the lady's like, I had an abortion, it was twins, and the other one was like, damn, double kill. That was so fucked up. Or double homicide, Jesus.
About 2 to 3 days before my recent birthday last year in November. It was a very unexpected event. I remember having symptoms almost immediately. I was about 6 weeks, I believe, 5 weeks and 7 days. I actually did not suspect I was pregnant because I had been going through some traumatic life events that threw my cycle off. My period was on average 40 days late, so I just didn't suspect anything when I was 6 days late that past cycle. And my boyfriend, who I was confiding in at the time and telling about my current bodily circumstances, had a feeling beyond me, the woman in this equation who should know what's going on. He was the one that prompted me to go get a test.
Yeah, boyfriends always have a feeling. As soon as you ever, I love how women will do this shit. Okay, women will be talking to you casually on the phone. Okay, and she'll say some shit like, "Oh, it's kind of weird. Like my period's 4 days late." Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go hang out with Rebecca later, and maybe we can, you see each other tonight. Like, they'll just say shit like that, right? Now, I don't know, because women have different periods all the time, and your shit is all fucked, and your cycles are doing all crazy shit. Listen, if you're a man and you hear some shit like that, that is the only thing you think about for the rest of the fucking day, okay? You are hounding the bathroom trash can, waiting for some fucking tampons to show up. You're like, bro, how are you just gonna say some shit like your period is 4 days late? Okay? I'm about to start shoving you down the stairs if you're not gonna get a pregnancy test. What are we doing right now? Okay? Jesus.
Because he felt that I was pregnant, and when we found out, it was a shock. I'm the type of person, when in my relationships, I make very clear my positions on how I am with abortion and pregnancy and child rearing. I'm very transparent in that matter, because there should be no room for error in that case. But that's because I'm fortunate enough to be educated in that manner. I'm a volunteer with Planned Parenthood, so I knew the resources available to me. And at that time, when I did conceive, it was not when I was on birth control. And so partially, I take responsibility for the circumstances that led to the conception of that pregnancy. Although I'm very grateful and I'm very appreciative that I had access to this form of healthcare, it was something that I grieved heavily. It was something that my boyfriend grieved heavily. We were not ecstatic to have done this. We were not happy that we had to make this choice. But because of our plans as individuals, as adults, and our life plan is to get married, is to complete school, and to maximize our chances of being the parents that we want to be, I felt it irresponsible to be selfish and say, well, I want a baby and I don't want to make that hard choice to terminate. But when you think of somebody else, and that would have been another individual, you have to think what's best for them if they were to be born. And I'm not in a position to where I could emotionally, financially, nor physically provide for a child. Whereas if I would do the hard thing now, later on down the line, when I improve my circumstances, I can be the mother that I want to be, instead of disadvantaging myself and that person who did not ask.
Tony Chat said this sounds like a script. It's probably something she has, I don't want to say rehearsed, but having an abortion for a lot of people is a pretty big deal, and I'm sure that she probably had to put like a considerable amount of thought into it, and I'm sure she's like second guessed herself and everything too. So it probably feels a little bit like a script, but just because she's probably personally thought about it so much, that's not very surprising at all.
Asked to be put in that situation.
I commend you for coming in front of like a camera and saying that.
Yeah. My parents don't even know either.
Yeah, mine don't either. I need to figure out a way to tell them. I'm just gonna block Jubilee from their YouTube.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you for sharing those experiences with us, because I could hear in your voice, even though I couldn't see your face. It's difficult to share. And I'm so sorry that you had that period of grief and those experiences.
Thank you.
I've miscarried twice, and taking the abortion pill, I know, though it is a different process, it's not dissimilar in the function of it to a miscarriage. But you did say something that I thought was interesting. You said you think it's selfish to bring a child into a situation where you know that maybe you're not economically stable, or you're not maybe in the best emotional state to have a child. And my mother has 5 children, and when I was born, my father was leaving. He was abusive.
Oh, is she about to give the... It worked out great for us.
We were on food stamps. She was in college. She was waiting tables and sweeping under chairs when she was in labor with me.
She's about to make this girl second
guess. I want to sympathize with that and say I know exactly
her abortion,
that kind of
Jesus.
Economic struggle, that emotional struggle that a lot of women are in. But I don't think it's fair to say that people who are in poverty or people who might have mental health or emotional issues are selfish for bringing children into those situations. Because I think that you can still have and love a child in those situations. And I don't think that having children is something that we should reserve for the wealthy, for the people who don't have mental health issues. I don't think it's selfish for people who are not in those positions of privilege to have children.
Damn.
Rich for the white, for those who are in a position.
Right. So I just want to quickly respond to you, and there's a reason why I included that in my personal statement. It's because that's a personal belief that I ascribe to myself. I don't think generally that it is selfish to bring children into your circumstances. I retract myself from in putting my personal beliefs onto other people's experiences. I only speak from how I feel, because I'm the king of my own fate. And in the same way that your mother chose to have 5 children, I chose not to. But I don't want to ever take that away from anybody. I think if you feel like you have the means and you have the willpower to be a mother, to be a father, you do that. But that doesn't give you the right to determine for other people that they should also do the same.
Well, I think that's kind of ironic, personally, because I feel like that's exactly the point of the question. It's whenever a person decides to have an abortion, whenever a doctor decides to perform an abortion, whenever a medical professional prescribes an abortion pill, they are making a choice for that child and pushing that onto the unborn person. Then they are saying that the unborn person, you don't deserve to live. You don't have the right to live. You are not rich enough to live. You are not privileged enough to live. You are not white enough to live.
What about the woman, though? Like like, I've had this conversation with so many pro-life people, and it's always, the fetus, the embryo, this unborn life. And I'm like, what about me? But I was actually going through it. You can have all these hypotheticals about you're pushing this onto the unborn life. First of all, they never existed. They are not aware of their existence. It's not a hypothetical about what they could have become or you're not giving them the right to life. They never existed.
First of all, they existed scientifically. Scientifically, an unborn fetus matches all of the qualifications that NASA has for a living individual organism. Secondly, I'd like to say, what right does anybody have to mitigate the outcomes of their own mistakes by oppressing another human being inside of them, by using unjust violence and excessive force against a peaceful being inside of them?
What about rape or incest?
I got pregnant from rape. 4 years ago, I got pregnant from rape. I was raped for years of my life. I have physical symptoms of that. I have reproductive issues.
Okay. How did this girl go from, well, early in my life, I was introduced to sexual activity and I wasn't even ready for it. And then like 20 minutes later, she was like, I was actually raped for years. Okay. Jesus.
As a result of that. But I think it's important to say that babies like my daughter Rachel, as I talked about before.
Wait, what screen was I just on? We're gonna claim shit.
Who I got pregnant with consensually, are the same. They're DNA-wise, there is nothing different in the DNA, the human DNA, between a baby who's conceived in rape and a baby who's conceived consensually.
So you're telling rape women that they should be having their children? Are you going to make that decision for women that are raped just because your experience, you think that it ended up being a good idea for you to have these children? Are you then going to stand here and say that all raped women should have their children?
Are you going to stand here and say that children who are conceived in rape are somehow different than children who are conceived consensually?
No, because I don't see a difference.
Then why are you bringing it up?
I would also say that abortion is not evidence-based care for rape victims. There's no research that shows that the outcomes of rape victims getting an abortion is better than those who do not. So if we want to go purely based off of medical science and evidence-based care,
I think the outcomes are better socioeconomically.
No.
Yeah,
I will push back that we do have statistical evidence that shows that women who have access to abortion and in societies where abortion is accessible, there is an overwhelming decrease in the amount of abortions obtained, and there's also an increase in the economic, emotional, and physical advancements of the people who have access to that care. And I will acknowledge, because I do think that what was inside of me, what was inside of you, I personally believe it is a life. It is. I mean, I held mine in my hands, but to equate that to me an already birthed human being. This thing, I have a photo of it in my phone. I was gonna bring my ultrasound.
Photo of
I
it?
thought that would
Jesus.
be triggering for some people. But what I possessed in my hands when I took it out of my pants, when I expelled it from my body, I think it is ludicrous to equate that to me. There was no head, there was no arms, there was no legs, there was nothing there.
How far along were you?
I was 5 weeks and 7 days.
You were 5 weeks and 7 days.
Yes. And I had the
Do you know
privilege.
that at 5 weeks a baby has a heartbeat?
Bro.
It does not.
First of all,
it does not. It has a two-chambered heart.
No, heart cells
Yeah, it does
can
not.
beat in a petri dish if you remove it. Heart cells, it's electrical impulses, but I mean, when we talk about life, and this is my personal opinion, I don't think when you draw the conclusion of what is life, I don't think that is a legal question. I think that is a moral and philosophical argument. And when you try and establish what is life, I mean, there are plenty of instances where we acknowledge that there is life, and yet we make decisions for them. When people are brain dead, we acknowledge that there is life there, and yet they are dead. I feel like when you try and say, well, this is life, so therefore it is deserving of rights, we extend more rights to someone who is hooked up to a machine, keeping them breathing without any conscious experience, and we extend to them more humanity than a woman and her body. And my argument is simply bodily autonomy. I think in no circumstance shall we force somebody, should the state, I should say, should the government compel somebody to use their body against their will, even if they are personally responsible for the individual. It's the reason why, even if you have a child and that child needs you for bone marrow or blood transfusions, the state cannot compel you and hook you up to a machine against your will to force you to keep that individual alive. And I think and when we live in a democracy and we prioritize human rights, you have to put bodily autonomy above and preserve it regardless, even if you are a drunk driver and your irresponsible, illegal actions led to the harm of another person. The state cannot put you in a position where your body must be used as a resource against your will. I think it is a violation.
Okay,
And
firstly,
what you would like
firstly,
to
I asked you about
All those
evidence-based
Judith
care
Thompson
involving
arguments.
rape victims.
Okay.
Not economic outcomes after a random
I wasn't
person takes a
arguing off
pregnancy.
the rape.
Well, yeah, well, as I said, you said, yes, we do have statistics, and then you brought statistics that had nothing to do with what I said. I would also like to say that the whole bodily autonomy argument, it doesn't hold up. Pregnancy is ordinary and healthy care 99% of the time. Pregnancy is not comparable to hooking you up to a random person. Your offspring is your child. They are genetically and emotionally related to you from the moment they are inside of you. My baby.
Who are these people? Bro, what the fuck? No offense, but like when I meet like random kids on college campuses, they're like, is moral and ethic the same thing? I don't even know the answer to that. But like, who are these people? Are all like fucking professional tier fucking debaters. What the fuck? Jesus.
Baby is literally grimacing right now inside of me. They can make squint faces. So it's not even comparable, the relationship between a child and the relationship between a rando. But you do not get to mitigate the outcomes of your choices by violently ending the life of another human being that you are responsible for bringing into dependency on.
Even if I invited someone into my own home, a friend, a family member, I have the means, if I choose, if I tell them I do not want you there, by my own choices, I allow that person into my home, into my space, into my domain, and then I change my mind and I rescind my consent. We have the ability, it's called self-defense. And I'm nowhere near arguing that pregnancy, let me clarify now before you jump to conclusions about what I'm saying. We have no.
Oh my god, a killer silver bullet. These are like advanced tier. These are like advanced tier abortion arguments. Upgrade your potions. You're gonna die soon. My potions are upgraded, you fucking moron. I can't upgrade to level 20. The question afterwards for the invite, if I invite somebody to my home, I have a right to kick them out. What if you invite somebody into your home and then it begins snowstorming? And if you kick them out, they'll die in the snowstorm. Do you have a right to kick them out of your house then, or do they have a right to the resource in your house? Oh fuck. I wonder if I don't think she'll ask that, but
issue with, and again, I'm not saying that pregnancy is the same as self-defense, but in those arguments, even when you put yourself and you put another person to a state of dependency, when you invite them into your home, you have the means to remove them. And I think when it comes to your body, and I'm just arguing in terms of the state, there's a lot of things that I disagree with in terms of like people smoking cigarettes, because we have evidence that shows secondhand smoke kills. You can kill somebody from the means of you having an addiction to cigarettes, but should we punish that person for the choice that they made simply because they?
Can I ask something? What about the child inside of you?
There was what I passed in my hands was not a child, and I think it is very disingenuous to say what I held in my hand is any of you. It just wasn't.
What was it then?
An embryo. It's like
Well,
a clump of
What's an
cells.
embryo?
What is an embryo?
It's a clump of cells.
Well, an embryo is just a term
It's an
for
organized
the
body.
stage of
It's
a
not
certain
just
stage
an
of
embryo. So when we
development
talk about
in the process of entire human life.
Right, I agree.
So it is.
Why are we watching tier 1 abortion debates? Bro, this abortion debate is more advanced than any other fucking debate I've heard in my entire life on fucking Twitch and YouTube. What? These people are doing a phenomenal job.
So it's,
So
it's a human life, so you just
But
agree.
is the egg unfertilized? Is that a human being?
No, because fertilization.
Hold on. One at a time. I want to hear what you guys have to say.
So an egg is distinct from an embryo because an embryo is a
What
genetically
is this?
distinct whole organism. It's not merely just a part like skin cells, egg, sperm.
Okay, hold on, wait. Tab W. What is this? 35 lock. Is this just like number of kills or something? Renown. I don't know what the fuck renown is. Whoa. Oh. You get them for discovering shit. Wait, did I fuck up by not claiming my one reward early enough? Did I like miss out on a ton of renown, or was it like being banked or something on the side? Read the bottom of that screen. It's automatic. Okay, it's banked. Gotcha. Damn, wait, so I should be doing these side dungeons. What the fuck?
Because we can tell that because if you were to apply the net test, so like any amount of nutrition, any environment, or any amount of time, like an embryo will develop into a mature member of its species, but sperm, eggs, skin cells, tumors, they're not going to develop into a
Right.
whole organism, so it's not the same thing.
Oh yeah, of course I do. I absolutely agree. I think an embryo is a stage of development.
Hello?
Okay, check this out. I'm streaming. Don't say anything crazy, okay? Ready?
Okay.
Okay. Book it under my card. Then she takes my passport, her passport, and her green card. So she can show that she has an ID for herself, and then she has the green card, which has the same last name as mine, and then they should let her use my card. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but are you sure that's gonna work?
I mean, worst case scenario, then I guess she can just use that card. But try that first, okay?
But worst case scenario, she's gonna have to like pay twice?
Well, no. They're not going to double charge. Worst case scenario, she'll just use the card that has her name on it. But ideally, you would use my business card for this.
But I'm buying that on, so she's gonna take both cards there?
She can take both with her, sure. But you should be able to, if you can show 2 IDs showing that we're fucking married, they should let her use my fucking business card.
Okay, let me call them to check.
Don't call him. No, don't call him. Listen, once they see her smiling face at the counter, they'll be fine with it. But...
Hey guys, buy merch. Buy
Oh,
merch
wait,
right now.
okay, true. Buy merch. Actually, wait. Yeah, no, wait. Actually, yes, you can call them. Call them and say, hey, can I use my husband's card? They should be fine. 100%. Yes.
I'm gonna pretend to be Mel and say, hey, can I use my husband's phone?
Yeah, role play. Like my husband. Like, I know you want to. Yeah, okay, you do that. Okay. All right, bye.
Bye.
But I don't think you afford that stage of development the same human rights that you would a full-grown human being.
And why is that?
It's the reason why we make a distinction between children and adults. A child can develop into an adult. Do we automatically ascribe them? You can drink, you can vote. Well, they are not that yet. And why make that distinction? But then say
But how does that give us the authority to kill the child?
I'm not saying give you the authority to kill a child, but I think if that the argument that I'm making is I feel like there is a fundamental difference between something being attached to you, reliant on your resources, and something being dependent on you for other types of resources beyond your physical body. It's the reason why I'm making a reference to blood transfusions and organ donations, because that is directly attributing what your body needs to survive to give to somebody else to help them live, as opposed to a child that is already born that simply needs your labor and financial resources to keep them alive and support their already existence and living on their own.
But when we're talking about the value of human life, I don't think it's at all fair to say that an unborn child is worth more than their mother or who would be their mother. I don't think it's fair to say that the mother's needs and her state of life or their state of life don't matter in that situation, because they do. And it's not this like killing a fetus for fun. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to be in that situation or to have an abortion. But like, you can't just act like we always should be prioritizing this what isn't even a child yet.
But none of us are saying we're prioritizing the child over the mother. We're saying,
yes, you are. Yes,
we're
you
saying-
are.
What happens during pregnancy?
What happens during pregnancy? The mother is trying to think of the word.
Succumbing?
Gestating.
Succumbing.
The mother is giving life to the fetus. The mother is supporting the fetus's life as it grows. And so what we're saying is that the child and the mother should be equally supported
Are they?
through the pregnancy.
Are they?
We're not
Okay,
saying
so
that they
so-
are,
we're
we're
not
saying
saying
they
that they
should
are.
be.
So supporting the financial needs of a mother is a need that can be handled through nonviolent means, whereas you guys are advocating for violent means to end the life
It's
of
not
a person.
violent. It's not
violent.
violent.
Yeah, it is violent to rip, suction, starve. It is violent to take limbs off of people.
I had a
It is
pill.
violent to induce a heart attack. Yeah, and you
was a
starved.
pill.
You starved your embryo. That's what happened. That's how the pill works.
You probably do that
Jesus Christ.
in labs somewhere. That's how you
I do that
But
in germ cells.
but it's a human being. I feel like we keep getting away from the fact
It's not,
that
though.
but
There's nothing to
science
get away
states
from. It
that life
doesn't
begins at
exist.
conception. It's a human embryo.
Science does not say that. The Bible says that.
No, no.
I have a question
that.
for you really quick. I have a I did have a
Don't
question.
get a bunch of pro-choicers and pro-lifers together.
I'd rather abort a child than put them through the foster care system.
Jesus.
And this is like, I didn't consider this until I myself was put into that situation where it's not just get pregnant, put the kid in the foster system. It's that, again, like I said, 9 months of pregnancy. And I would not go through those 9 months of pregnancy, even though if I had the option of giving my kid up to the foster care system, like, you have to still go through those 9 months of pregnancy. It's not just, you can just drop it off.
So I feel like first, before we get into the conversation, we need to establish how foster care works. As someone who is in the system, I understand how the system works. As someone whose parents were foster parents, I understand the system is not something you can willingly just register your child for, not like the adoption system. Foster care is a system of the government to protect children who are in unsafe environments, that they see the child as being in an unsafe environment. My mother was a drug addict. We were living in government housing. We were homeless multiple times. My mother was severely addicted to alcohol, just not at a time in her place where she could really have a family,
Jesus.
but she did have a family. And so my grandmother came and watched us. And my grandmother, over time, just really was convicted, because she was a devout Christian woman, of the reality that this is no environment for a child to grow up in, and she wanted to do something, if anything, to help us have a better life. And she knew financially she could not take us in, but she wanted to do something. So she called CPS, and CPS came and took me and my siblings away. Now, did I have the best experience of foster care? Absolutely not. I still live today with bruises and sores on my body from foster care. And I was in there up until I was 19 months old. I was a baby, but it still affects me to this day. And I really struggle when I hear people say that, like, a child in foster care is somehow less valuable because of the way that the government treats children in foster care, because I just don't think that's a correct opinion to have. To treat a child as less valuable is dehumanizing, and I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm 1000% against dehumanization of any human being whatsoever.
I don't think anyone is saying that foster care kids are less valuable.
I am.
Like, you.
Okay, you're gonna have to just listen to this. Oh wait, actually, can I give you this on OBS? Because I think I'm gonna die in this game if I got this shit on my fucking screen. I don't think it's gonna play this video if I'm... feel like it's not going to play if I'm like tabbed out, but we'll see.
Didn't mean that, did you? No, nobody's saying that. I just wanted to make that clear. Do you have a uterus?
Oh my god, it does.
I do not have a uterus.
You do not have a uterus. So I'm not saying that your opinion is invalid or that you should not be included in this discussion,
God.
but I'm saying that that's important to keep in mind is that you could never be in this position of having to decide whether you in your body want to keep and raise a child from your body.
You are arguing for the slaughter of human beings because you're pro-choice. And I'm standing here in where a fetus cannot.
You're killing a fetus, so it's not a strong word.
It's really not. And but can I
The
just
infinite
finish my statement?
holocausting of fetuses.
We're standing here in defense of the children because they do not get that voice, because they do not have that voice because they are in the
I'm
womb.
leveling up, stay mad.
I'm assuming you will, right?
That's not an argument you can make because I am currently not in the financial place to adopt. But it is a choice that I could make to become a foster parent. The issue is that becoming a foster parent is something that you register with the state. It's not as easy as just saying like, well, you can just one day become a foster parent. It is a long, tedious process. It's expensive. There's tons of things that go into it.
I would also say
They
also, you guys had something to say.
We're talking about who should have a voice in this discussion, but it's like the unborn don't have a voice. They're not yet able to like have a voice, but they are still human beings with dignity, and we ought to respect that. So I think it's like, I think we really need to sort of figure out, like, what are we talking about here? Because if abortion doesn't kill human beings, then no justification is necessary. However, if it does kill human beings, no justification is adequate.
I always say that if murder was happening at the rate that abortions happen at, it would be Armageddon. Like, it is just absolute. Women, I think it's like a quarter of women will have an abortion in their lifetime. If that was happening, if an eighth of the population was being murdered, then it would be the purge.
Why do you think we're so distraught, though?
It doesn't affect you, though. Like,
but it doesn't affect us.
It doesn't. If I hadn't told you, you wouldn't know.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
But why is
every single person, even if they are not under my jurisdiction, the oppression of that person is my business, and that's what it is.
I respect that approach.
This is, to us, it sort of sounds like we're saying it's like if you don't want an abortion, sort of just don't have one. But we hear it sort of in the same way. It's like, if you don't like slavery, don't have a slave. We hear it sort of in the same ways.
Oh no, true actually, true.
Like sort of the destruction of the dignity of a human person, like abortion and slavery violate the dignity of a human person.
So you're comparing abortion?
I actually agree with that. I actually agree with that. And I think that ties in nicely to this whole systems and foster care argument, because people argued vehemently at the time in which we were about to end slavery that we should not end slavery because we don't have the systems. We don't have the systems ready for all of the slaves that
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. It's just a boss in a blue dungeon. I should be able to kill this and be fine, right? If I die, I'm done with this fuck shit game. Okay. 2 potions. I'm a rogue. Okay. Just gonna right click a bunch. Shadow step behind. Dash around. Easy. Okay. 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 Sorry, I'm done. Okay.
I'll be free. There's no jobs out there for them. They don't have any land. Oh, we need to keep them as slaves until we have the right system. No, you don't get to degrade the dignity of another human being until you're ready for them to be here.
And black people are still suffering today.
Until you are ready for them to live dignified lives. That's unjust.
Damn.
I want to touch on
the white moderate, the white aborter.
Foster care system, and I just wanted to emphasize that for me, I didn't take into consideration the foster care. I don't feel like anybody is less than. I don't think that you're less than. I think me and you are entitled to the same rights. Of course, just personally, when I made my decision, it wasn't a matter of I don't want my child to go to the foster care or be adopted out. That wasn't the question. What I took into consideration, what my boyfriend and I decided together was we did not want to put me through the physical constraints of pregnancy without him, because my boyfriend, he's a traditional, very traditional Christian, and I'm no longer religious. I grew up in the Catholic Church, and I'm not religious anymore, but I respect his views, and he carries a lot of views that you have, but because of his consideration to me and his approach to the family structure, he knew that he was not in a position to take care of me in that vulnerable time. In the weeks that I was pregnant, it was very...
Wait, is Diablo 4 even that much of an improvement? Diablo 3 graphics-wise, it looks about the same? You want an ultra hot take? You want an ultra hot take? If you're looking for huge improvements in graphics, play consoles. Consoles have had dramatic improvements in graphics, I think, over the past decades. PC, over the past decade, I think it's like gotten okayly better, but not that much, I don't think. That'd be my, I think so. Like, I'm curious, when did The Witcher 3 come out? Like, I feel like if I go back and I look, like, Bioshock 1 and Bioshock 2 both looked pretty good. Those games are like 2000, oof, what? I want to say when I played Bioshock 1, I think Rachel watched me play that game. So that must have been like 2008 or something. I'm not saying the graphics haven't improved at all, but I'm saying, like, they're not like, I don't think they're massively improved. Consoles have gotten a lot better, but play Bioshock 1 now, it's aged a lot more than you thought. Wait, once you cleared a boss from a room, an area like this, can you just leave, or? Yes, Destiny. There's nothing of value in here? Because now I just found a chest. Now you seem like the fool. Oh look, there's another boss thing. Wait, that's not a boss guy. Never mind. I'm fucking retarded. Oh wait, there's a guy. A prisoner. You just give me a health pod? Really? Is this a small dungeon or a regular dungeon? It's like a blue dungeon, I think. Okay, sorry.
Extremely hard for me. It was mentally and physically draining. The changes that were going on, it was to the point where I could not participate in the daily activities that one does, go to work, feed themselves, get out of bed. It was very psychologically difficult in that short period of time, and we knew at that point that it was going to be a very demanding and laborious pregnancy had I gone through with it. But because of how he feels and his responsibility and his duties that he places on himself as a man, he wanted to make sure that that experience of pregnancy, and when we do decide to have a child, I'm in a point where I can be cared for appropriately. Just the way I waited out, and again, it wasn't because I, this aversion to the foster care. In fact, I feel like we should better resources for those children because they have every right to be here. I'm more so focused on whether or not, again, should the government enforce and place themselves in such a personal matter when it's a matter of people using their body.
I would think most of us in some regard agree with you. I can't speak for everyone here. I don't know everyone's various political beliefs. I think most of us would agree with you, and that's why we're pro-life, is because we see it as that's what the government is doing to children in the womb. The reality that the government could have just, because of the way that the government works and because of the way that the abortion system works, the reality that I just could be non-existent and not exist at all is horrifying. And the reality that my memory, my life, my genetic makeup, the people that fought for years to give me rights, that can all just be erased. Is horrifying.
But it would have never happened. It's not like it happened.
Hold on. Bioshock 1 gameplay.
Character now. Hold on. Let's go to upstairs. This is a very convenient. Hey. It's the first human. I don't know if that's a human, but that's the. I am literally like terrified right now. What do you want me to do, dude? Who wants to get beat with a wrench?
I mean, it doesn't look amazing for sure. But like, this game is 15 years old, right? Now, this isn't fair, but like, go 10 years before this game. Compare a game, so this is back in 2008, I think this released. Now compare this with a game that released in like 1993, another 15 years. what were we, was 1993, was that the Nintendo? But.
And then like it was a race. Like
I was conceived, my mother had the option to abort.
Yeah.
Therefore, it could have happened.
Parents should be informed if their teen is seeking an abortion.
So when I was being sexually abused, my parents didn't know. When my rapist found out that I had a pregnancy scare, he was like, I will f***ing kill you.
Damn.
If this is the situation, I'll kill you. And I think that if I had gone into an abortion facility, as many girls and women have, and been forced by my rapist to have an abortion, I think that this is another I guess, part of a system where mandatory reporting fails, as it has many times in abortion facilities, particularly in Planned Parenthood. Parents need to be informed if their child's being sexually abused, and because mandatory reporting often fails in this way, because Planned Parenthood is a business and they make money off of what they do, I think that it's really important for the parents at least to have this knowledge and to have this understanding.
Yeah, I think it's a really kind of tricky situation and topic to discuss just because there are so many, like there's such a breadth of situations that can occur and have occurred. And I'm so sorry for what you went through, by the way, but like that situation is really awful, and it definitely highlights how having parental oversight is good and important in certain situations, but also like there are situations where young people are in situations with abusive households, abusive parents, who, if they found out that that teenager, that child was attempting to do something to care for themselves and to help themselves live the life that they need to, or for their health, or whatever reason they might have for doing it, they'll be prevented from seeking care of any kind, not even just like an abortion. They'll be prevented from seeking any kind of sexual wellness care, health care, of any sort, because their parent is aware that they were looking for that kind of support.
And I'd like to go off of what you're saying. I agree full-heartedly that there are different situations where it could be dangerous for the individual to tell their parents, and that's why I think pregnancy resource centers, which is what we support, are such a valuable tool, because they have the right to put protections over this young individual or older individual. And if they are in an unsafe situation, they house them, they feed them, they get them a job away from the area where they are. You know, they do stuff to help, but also those situations and the situation the child was conceived in, that child still has value. So that's why I'm a firm believer in protecting both the mother and the child.
I mean, I would also like to say that, like, as much as young people don't like to hear it, and as much as I didn't like to hear it myself, because I had, you know, a messed up household, because I had a parent who was not a safe parent. I think that parents have rights. Uniquely, like the Ohio Initiative for Choice right now is trying to attack parents' rights, trying to make it so that people can get medical procedures or supposed medical procedures in abortions and not have to notify their parents.
Wait, what's going on here?
There have been teenagers and young women who have died from abortion procedures.
We have people that go and counsel outside of Planned Parenthoods and abortion facilities, and we've seen, like we've documented, reported to the state, suspicious behavior of people bringing busloads of minors in to have abortions.
What?
And,
Busloads?
you know, it's one of those things that we just have to look at the reality and we have to address it.
No
There's
shot.
actually statistics that say
Holy
that
shit.
the majority of women who have undergone sex trafficking report having more than one forced abortion, specifically saying forced abortion.
And we are against that too, right? We are against people being forced into abortions as much as anything else.
I think parents have an obligation to care for the child that they have in their care, and I think it is a parent's responsibility to support that child, of course. But then again, I feel like I'm speaking from a privilege of where I obtained mine when I was already a legal adult, so I didn't have to tell my parents. I just know for me personally, because I went to Planned Parenthood to obtain my abortion, and even when I obtained my birth control and my routine screenings from them, some of the questions that they always asked me was, are you safe? Are you in a safe situation? Are you doing this because you consented to it? When I obtained my abortion, they asked me, is someone forcing you? And they have signs all over in the clinic telling them, or telling patients that they are obligated to report if you are being sex trafficked or abused in some way.
The reason I disagreed was because I believe the prompt said teens should have to come to their parents. I am acquainted with someone who just had an abortion who is the same age as us, and she did not tell her parents. She has yet to tell her parents.
Well, I think we're talking about telling parents before the procedure, particularly, because that has ramifications. I mean, I'm sure afterwards there's some ramifications, but I think parents, like I said, would have the right to know before you get the procedure.
I have a question. Because I think a lot of us are coming from the approach of like minors, but I'm saying, and specifically with my case, because I was already legally an adult when I had mine. Do you feel like even in cases, although we are teens here, I'm still legally an adult? Should my medical information, now that I am legally able to obtain care on my own, because that's where I'm going to operate from, should, even against my wishes, should they be informed? Because I think for me, with such a sensitive topic, I want to go to them when I'm ready, because I'm coming here now sharing my story, but I was not prepared to come out with mine, because it's still something that I grieve with to this day. It's still something that my boyfriend and I, we still tackle with every day. But I just don't agree with the idea that even though I'm a teenager, I'm still an adult and I should still have my
I think when people say teenagers, they mean minors,
my
right?
Private medical information to my parent. Now that I'm willing and able to make that choice, that should be violated.
I think that we would all agree that, like, for an adult, no, if you're a legal adult, you shouldn't have to tell your parents.
Yeah.
However, I think we're specifically talking about minors.
Okay.
Yes, obviously.
It's possible to find a middle ground on the issue of abortion.
Not possible.
Ooh, impossible.
I think there's some ways to find some middle grounds.
Yeah, I think we already have here today on like certain parts of it.
But that's on parts of it, not on the abortion issue itself.
Thank you guys for your time and your vulnerability. I appreciate hearing new experiences.
Thanks for sharing your stories, no matter what.
She's like, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Yay.
Damn, that was intense, guys.